Welcome to another evening of Buddha by the Bay. Tonight we have Tanya Joyce, a local artist. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
So our friend Mary Destry brought you here, having met you at a Tarot group. Tell me about it.
It's called the Thursday Night Tarot, and it's been in practice since 1950. And it shares many qualities with Buddhism.
As does your art. And I hear you've been painting Buddhas since 1985.
I have. I got interested in Buddhas having found some little ones this size that were carved very quickly from pieces of jade of larger objects that broke. And I was fascinated by the fact that each one conveyed a different aspect of human personality, even done with this stroke for the nose and that for the mouth and so forth.
Buddha is to be found in many places, such as Oshkosh Bagosh overalls, right?
Yes, yes. One of my more current series of Buddhas began when I was looking at the clips of my overalls, which form a silhouette not unlike Buddha sitting in a lotus position. And there they are, a little shot of the overalls clips and Buddha within a Buddha as a truth within a truth.
Enlightenment in daily life.
That's actually a very good way to summarize my basic concerns, because my images that I draw, no matter whether it's Tarot or Buddhism, do tend to be from daily life.
And accessible.
I hope so.
And more fun.
Fun is also very important, because I feel that in any spiritual tradition, when we bring humor to it, it both has a truth to life and it's extremely relaxing.
Did you formally study meditation or with Buddhist teachers or anything?
No. When I got very interested in painting Buddhist subjects, I read a great deal to see if there was any reason why a thought pattern of mine would be in conflict with Buddhism, and it's not at all. But I've paid attention to a great deal of Buddhist thought, and I had an exhibit of paintings at the San Francisco Zen Center 10 years ago, and the comments that people made were, even if I didn't meet all those people, as though we were sitting in the same room chatting.
Well, Dharma means nature or spontaneous truth, that which is.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's true that a lot of, Buddhism changes everywhere it goes, every culture it goes to, and humans turn universal truths into religions and priestly pecking orders and with rules and regulations and so on. So
that's true, and whether it's Buddhism or Tarot or meditative Christianity, what I'm interested in is that underpinning that is the same everywhere, although, as you're saying, expressed differently in different cultures.
So how does, I'll ask you generally two questions tonight. How Buddhism and art fit into your life and your world, and also how, where the Kabbalah or Tarot intersects with Buddhism.
Well, I'll try the first one first. Buddhism fit into my world, I think, because it was very much in the air in the early 60s when I was first in San Francisco. And I met Philip Whalen and some of the other beat poets who were very seriously interested in Buddhism. And I respected their thought, but they had a rather severe aspect to what they wanted to set aside in order to follow their Buddhist practice. And I thought something else is needed.
No fun.
That was my view at that time.
You guys might get enlightened, but it's no fun.
That was very much my view then.
Aww.
And I think I'm probably wrong about that, because I remember going to Philip Whalen's house just after he'd been given a party when he was going to leave on one of his trips to Japan, and all his gifts had been children's toys, and he had them in the kitchen window lined up and was playing with them. So I think it's more my perception at that time than the reality.
Well, the Japanese style of Zen Buddhism is a lot of kind of prescriptive, stiff, rigid sitting and,
It is.
somber robes and somber chanting.
It is, but the painting that comes out of it is not.
Right.
It's using the things that you've just described to help us focus on a tremendous creativity that allows you to just go with paint and create something that has immense spontaneity for centuries to come.
Zen spirit in it.
Yes, and it's the painting from that tradition especially that I studied for a long time, and the Chinese antecedents to it.
So how does Tarot and Kabbalah and other metaphysical things, how do they fit together for you?
Well, the most basic way they do is through a sense of relaxation and humor, those aspects of all those things. The other is setting aside our daily life worries to have more time to spend with our deepest, highest selves. Those things are all shared. And on a practical, technical level, the school of thought that I work with in Tarot and Kabbalah, which are descendants of the Golden Dawn tradition in England, use archetypal pictures, tarot cards, in the same way that Tibetans and others who work with mandalas use mandalas, and that includes using the juxtaposition of bright color to intensify what's going on with us while we're looking at things.
It's true that bright color, does stimulate different hormones and synapses in our brains and brings us up to different energies. There's a whole school of healing through color and so on.
Yes.
I think the mandalas, not only as a thing to focus, objects to focus on, but at least in Tantra, they are a world within a world, and they are like the essential nature of, they're kind of embodied, but they're, as are the tarot cards, embodying archetypal energies and natures, elemental natures of.
Yes, almost an identical level in some cases. I saw a picture of one of the Dalai Lama's thrones in Tibet awaiting his return, and it had a yellow-orange robe across a bench. Behind it was a scene of green with a riverbank and a city behind it, almost exactly like the charioteer in Tarot, and yellow-orange is the color associated with that archetype too. And that particular juxtaposition was absolutely stunning to me.
And the Dalai Lama could be considered the charioteer card. I've read cards with the lamas as that too. So, have we seen some of your art yet? Some of your dazzling colors?
I think we've seen the overalls piece. This is a piece that is in the Buddhist spirit. It's very much in the spirit of Zen painting. And I did it one day when I was focusing on something else. But on the top of my refrigerator was a dried salsify head, and I noticed that one of the seeds was falling out of it. It was just gorgeous. So I dropped everything else and turned my attention to that.
That's a very Buddhist image.
Yeah, and I actually did quite a series of them, having, I think, spent time in preparation with whatever else it was that I'd been painting that day.
I think people seek Buddhism and other wisdom traditions because of that inability to get off the hamster wheel and just stop and be present with something as elegant as a seed dropping from a salsify. That trying to grasp the impermanence, that each moment, if you really pay attention to each moment, you can't but be aware of how ephemeral and evanescent and impermanent it is.
That's right, and I like to think of it as Jason Lauderhand, who started the Thursday Night Tarot, would say poco a poco for many of those things, so that we come to that relaxation little by little. Very often, if we rush from our hectic lives to a weekend of meditation, when we come back from that weekend, it's very difficult to integrate what we experienced in the relaxed state with what we're doing in daily life. So the little by little, as starting to appreciate something in our daily life, it can be taking the earbuds out and listening to the sounds around us when we're in commute even. But once we do that, as you're saying, it's a very enriching circumstance. It can take us anywhere.
Right. If we're ever to be enlightened, why not now? And if we're enlightened now, then how do we integrate that into day-to-day life?
Yeah, and there's always more enlightenment too. There's always that.
Exactly, exactly. So, Buddha in overalls, I hear you have a tattoo painting?
Yes, I have a website, and a young man in Missouri wrote me some email to the effect that he had had a tattoo on his shoulder done from one of my paintings. And what I like, first he had a little feeler, what did I think of that? And I thanked him very much for writing me some email to tell me. So he sent me a photo of his shoulder with the email, with the tattoo on it. And this picture that we're looking at right now is the twin of the original for his tattoo.
Yeah, Buddhism is often very serious business. It's a big business too. It's a growing business in America. It's gotten very mercantile around here.
It has, and in that same spirit, one of the aspects is true of much of Buddhism in its older forms, and true of the Thursday Night Tarot as well, is that it's free. And we do have a pass the hat for expenses, but it's totally at the discretion of each individual if they want to put something in it, and if so, how much. And I think there's a tremendous, what'll I say, impediment that often happens when we think so much about what we're charging, if we're giving a seminar, or what we have to pay if we're paying for it. This actually detracts from the focus. And there's a marvelous history of Qigong video where one of the practitioners says, if you focus on money per se, you're losing energy, which is
you're drained of qi, or ki.
That's right.
Or prana,
right.
or vital life force.
Yeah, ruach in Hebrew, or spiritus in Latin.
Oh, right,
so all the
spiritus, right. And in Greek, it's probably pneuma. Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of Buddhist empire building going on, as people establish their territories and whatnot.
There is. When I had the exhibit at the Zen Center.
Do you have some of those pictures from your exhibit?
Yeah, the ones that are in black and white are that type. Now there's some comic ones. The one that we're looking at now on the left and in the middle especially, I did a series called Mother Buddhas, because every archetype has a male and female aspect. And they were exhibited at the Waukesha campus of the University of Wisconsin, and they upset several men, saying, Buddha can't be a woman. So I thought, okay, these images are getting, they're getting under the skin of people. And these two on the left and in the center are thinking about that circumstance. My goal in doing them was to bring the idea of the female archetype back into balance with the male archetype. And we have a little way to go about that.
Speaking of a way to go, do you consider your painting to be like a path to enlightenment as much as your spiritual practice?
I do, and I didn't consciously think about that, because so often when I'm painting, I'm thinking, is this color going to come out right, or various things of that kind. But Arissa Victor, who led the Thursday Night Tarot, for some time and is out now off doing other things, said of one of my flower pieces, it's a Zen painting. And it's more or less in the European mold. So I was quite surprised to hear her say that, but she's talking about the attitude with which I had simplified the forms. And that was 15 years or so ago, and it's still helping me to realize that for me, painting is a spiritual practice.
Mm-hmm. So what are you doing now?
What I'm doing now is a group of things using iridescent color. And these are some newly manufactured paints that I'm working with. They change slightly if you're looking at an image from the left or the right. And I'm also working with some, this is one of them that we're looking at right now. The basic blue form is still from the overalls clip, but the little swath of color that you can see going across the torso is actually some iridescent paint, as are parts of the glow that's behind him. That's one kind of thing I'm working on. And the other is a much larger series of pieces. Last time I was in London, it ended up that my favorite visual art experience was a mural by a self-taught artist that was done on the boards surrounding a building project. And he was deeply aware of Chinese traditions in some manner and had a row of 5 figures purporting to be children where the faces overlap, and as in traditional Buddhism, but they're within a cave. And it looks like a stage with curtains, but it's a cave, and there's landscape surrounding it. And it was very cold and miserable early spring, and there I was with my sketchbook, and my boyfriend had the video camera. And that simplicity of those images has continued to be something that is up next for me.
Ah, it's remarkable how a gesture that allows the viewer or the reader or the listener to fill in, that is what's considered Zen or Zen art, is that it's just a quick gesture indicating something that then the viewer can allow their own mind to expand into and go wherever it will.
Very much, very much. And I think that's why I liked the response to the Mother Buddhas that these men had.
They filled it right in.
They did.
What else do you have to show us that's different?
Well, I'll see. These are 2 pieces that are from a Tibetan tanka. Some friends of mine had it, and I framed it for them and decided that I just loved the little multiple Buddhas that were surrounding the main image. So I brought over some paper and just sketched them and completed them in my own fashion. So I do work with color of various styles. This is very quickly applied color, where the work with the iridescent paint is a more opaque color, more traditionally from European painting. And we've had so many thoughts about what we might say that this is another one. I didn't make any list of them, I should have, but now we have one that I do have another story about. I was with a friend who was picking out a stone to give for a birthday present, and in the shop I saw a group of lapis lazuli cat pendants, which were about 3 inches long. And the way the cat's feet were positioned reminded me of images of Lord Buddha receiving enlightenment and touching the earth to be grounded, or however you want to interpret that gesture, at the time of enlightenment. So I call these grounding cat Buddhas. And they were part of the exhibit that I had at the Zen Center in San Francisco. And I really, I also enjoy doing open studio events. Usually I do 3 a year. This year I'm taking a sabbatical from them to finish 2 books. But these cats with their curled tails, I felt that whoever that jade carver was, or in this case lapis lazuli carver, really was aware of tradition, because it's as though Kundalini energy is spiraled in that cat's tail. So that was a fairly lengthy series of pieces that I did. Again, inspired by the thing that I came across, not expecting to come across it. There's a long tradition in many spiritual practices that what is needful will come to you when you're ready for it. And in hindsight, that's always a delightful thing to experience. Before the fact, it's not at all the case, because you're looking for something as though fog has come in over the bay. And yet coming across those lapis lazuli pieces, or the jade pieces, or looking at my overalls clips, is it's all part of that same thing that you were talking about in paying attention to things like the salsify seed, that when we're relaxed enough to look at small things and see the macrocosm in the little bit, like Thoreau looking into the ice of Walden Pond and seeing the universe reflected there. In terms of other interests of mine, I think the 2 places I like to visit the most are London and Walden Pond. I've been there several times, and I like it very, very much. It's about 4 times the size of Stowe Lake. So many people define ponds in different manners. But one year I did instead of painting there, I took a lot of slides and brought them back for a slideshow here, because many people, as I have no idea what Walden Pond actually looked like. And Thoreau was interested in basically Indian metaphysics, but because that's what was available to him in written form. But he's another person whom I think would have great interest in many of the
Buddhist
trends.
tenets.
I think so.
Well, Dalai Lama says Buddhism's not a religion; it's a philosophy or a science, even. You know, when he was here the other day, he gave a lot of parallels to quantum physics and modern science and string theory, dissecting the universe into interdependent co-creation. You've mentioned relaxation a lot, and that, from what I know, what little I know anyway about the higher forms of Tibetan Tantra and Buddhism, Zen and Dzogchen and Mahamudra, as it's called in Sanskrit, those are all the highest states of awareness, as close as you get to enlightenment. And the key, the road or the path to them, every one of them is relaxing into the moment and being present, fully present into the moment.
That's true. I personally have a long way to go in that direction.
But it sounds like your art is what takes you there.
Yes, I think when I'm doing that, that does happen. I'm quite fascinated with watching monks from Asia when they're here in the Bay Area. I was on BART one day, and a very, very tall monk came in, and because he was a large man, I expected him to sit in a certain heavy way, and he sat down like a feather, which told me both a lot about his physical state, which every muscle was very tuned in.
Conscious.
Yeah, And then he was looking around at everyone with this very lovely look. So this is what public transit is like in a large city. It was a very direct that came to me when you were speaking about relaxation.
Mirrors. We're all mirrors for each other. Let's see another.
This one, this is an image of relaxation. This really is. This one started with the blue area, which is from a piece of paper that I had underneath a painting, and the blue was just off the edge. But I liked it very much. I had some gold foil from another art project and decided to make what in the Chinese tradition is lucky money substitute, that you put your prayers and your thoughts into a little piece of paper with a gold square on it and a streak of yellow gold paint, and burn it, and then the
prayers go up into
Yeah.
the universe, out into the universe. That's a concept, I guess, not just Buddhists and a lot of Asians, but even American Indian, Native Americans have. Sacred art is art basically that's done, be it ever so crude, you know, like the Hopi prayer sticks and so on, but any kind of art that is done that takes time and takes consciousness and takes awareness and brings us to the moment and allows us to let our thoughts be positive while we're doing it, or for things to unfold within us, to be revealed to us as we're making them. That's really the description of sacred art in most cultures.
Yes, and I think you've hit on it, taking time.
Taking time. So it's time to wrap it up. And we look forward to seeing you again
Thank you
sometime.
very much.